you might have been introduced to the four Gospels, those being Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And you might be wondering to yourself, which of one of these four Gospels should I start reading, and what makes each of them unique? So in this video, we're going to be talking about what makes each one of these four Gospels different, and which one you might start to pick up on when you start your journey with Christ. So the first book, Matthew, is a jack of all trades. This book focuses on a variety of sparse events that happen between the birth and the death of Christ. This book is good in terms of just encompassing the whole general story, but it also is one of the most important books, I would say, because it includes the Sermon on the Mount, where they just talk about what would Jesus do and how would Jesus live. And I would say, because the Sermon on the Mount is in Matthew, this is one of the best books in terms of understanding the teachings of Jesus in the most direct form. When we talk about the Gospel of Mark, this is one of the most short and direct forms of portraying the gospel. So this is made for people who have short attention spans, and this was actually written for the Romans at the time because they were in such busy lives. So the point of this book is to keep it as short and concise and to get to the point of the birth and the death of Christ and everything that happened in the middle of it. Not everything, but sparse events, important events, worthy enough to be mentioned. The book Luke is one of the most historically and philosophically dense books out of the four Gospels. The book Luke talks more about the before the birth of Christ in terms of Mary and how his connection with the Old Testament and the prophecy of Christ and how everything coincided afterwards. So Luke definitely focuses more on the historic aspect as well as the parables that Jesus talks about, which is more philosophical in nature because they go into a lot of parables in this chapter and they're very dense in terms of information. So this is one of the longer books out of the four Gospels, but this one is most intriguing for those who love history and philosophy. Lastly, we have John. John, in my opinion, is one of the most authoritative Gospels out of the four Gospels that we have been presented. John focuses a lot on truth and talking about seeking truth and personal eyewitness testimony of Christ. So this is definitely the book that people like, especially if you are left brain orientated, which focuses more on facts and observable things being held, right? These are mostly people who are right-handed, and people love this book because it's direct, it's concise, and it's authoritative. This book, for me, was kind of hard to read because it was so on point. It was so direct on the truth and the birth of Christ that to me it was hard to understand where that language was coming from without knowing the history of Christ. So it was harder for me to read this book particularly because I focused more on the historic evidence of Christ. But for people who want to know Christ and to understand the truth of him, John is the book to read. So these are the four Gospels that are in the New Testament that I recommend everyone should reading at some point. But choosing which one to read first is a subjective choice that is made by you. So out of the four, feel free to choose whichever one you want. And after you read the Bible, I would love to hear what you think about the chapter. So afterwards, please leave a comment below and let me know what you think about what you observed and what you read, and which Bible would you be looking forward to reading next. Until then, I'll see you guys next time.